Laura, with this Chelsea Heights Safe Routes to School update. Hi, Laura.
Yes. Hi. Um, okay, great.
Yep. Yep, we can see it.
Perfect. Okay, I'm here for Chelsea Heights Safe Routes to School. It sounds like you guys were involved when we applied for the application, for external funding. We applied through regional solicitation, and now it's to construction. It will be constructed this summer. And it's based off of the Chelsea Heights Safe Routes to School plan, and I'll get a little bit more into that. So on the right is just our project area. It's all intersections, so it's those locations that are circled in blue, and that's Hoyt and Hamlin, Huron and Hoyt, Nebraska and Hamlin, Arlington and Hamlin, Frankston and Hamlin, and Midway and Hamlin. And the project is about increasing pedestrian and bike safety, getting to school, as well as decreasing speeds on Hamlin. The plan only calls out like about a mile away from the school. But we applied for funding for a few other intersections to include Frankston and Midway. All of the intersections will include bump outs, updates to ADA ped ramps, and new striping. I'll get into each intersection. I have a slide on each intersection, I believe. So the plan was in 2017. After that plan was made, that plan allows us to apply for external funding and be highly likely to get it, and we did. And so it's something through regional solicitation, which is with the Met Council, and we were awarded 1.8. So there's no assessments with the project. There's just a 20% match of funds that the city matches for the project. Next to nine. So all the intersections will have some amount of bump outs. This is just an example. This isn't on the project location or anything, but it's about reducing the crossing distance for pedestrians and increasing visibility. So this photo on the left is showing bump outs on both sides of a corner. So the dotted yellow line would be where we would usually put a curb in a road, is just keeping it straight. They're also known as pedestrian extensions. So we're planning at the locations on the right that are bolded, having two bump outs, meaning like this photo where it's into both corners. And the rest will just be on one side that there's a bump out.
Is there a bump? There's not a bump out on the other side of the street?
You can go back to the photo. Yes, so most of the locations we're planning on just a bump out on one side of the street and not on the other.
Okay.
In some locations like Hamlin and Hoyt, it's just currently a very wide road. So we think it's beneficial to put them on both. So I know 1.8 seems like a lot and we could do a lot, but bump outs are quite expensive when you have to move sewer or water, like the underground things. And usually when you're doing a bump out, there's usually a grate somewhere for water. So we tried to use our funds in strategic ways. And I'll get into that at these photos. So I have one of these for each intersection. If I gave you the updated slides.
I believe
Okay,
these are
great.
the updates.
So this one is Hoyt and Huron. This is the one that's just outside the entrance of Chelsea Heights. So on the left is showing these are what are today's footages of how wide the road is. And then in yellow is showing this is where we're putting bump outs, and how much we're narrowing the road. And then I also have, it's a little bit harder to see, but I've added where we're going to be adding new painting. And just generally at every intersection, we're keeping the crosswalks where they're painted now, but we're updating it to the zebra striping and not just the one line. So on the left, on the southern intersection, you can see we just have 2 lines for a crosswalk, and we're gonna be updating that to zebra striping.
Question on the Chelsea Heights corner by the parking lot.
Yeah,
Has there been feedback, questions, concerns about people who do drop and pick up that will, be hard for cars? Feedback, any of that sort?
that has it. We've been talking to the school, the principal. There's also like a transportation liaison as well as busing. So we haven't heard that that would be a large hardship. Bump outs aren't taking parking spots. They are taking perceived parking spots because you're technically not supposed to be. There's a sign there that would say no parking from here to corner. So that's where the bump out is going. Yeah, we haven't heard that from the school. We did coordinate with them a lot on bus turning movements at this intersection because this is where buses line. So
Okay,
so
I
that's
just wanted, perfect. I just wanted to see if there was feedback and discussions, and sounds like
Yeah.
it's covered. Thank you.
thanks. Okay, Hamlin and Hoyt is just to the west of the school on the west side or the rec center entrance. This intersection, we're doing bump outs on both sides of every corner, trying to narrow up that crossing. We'll also, where the red X's are, we're gonna be removing a driveway to that auto care center. We've spoken to the parcel. It's also not in the city of St. Paul, so it was a little touchy, but they were really great to work with and totally understood that crossing for kids was, and having the driveway was a little precarious. So we're able to add that bump out there. Yeah.
I think they usually park cars in front of that driveway too.
Yeah. I've
That's probably
noticed.
why they were okay with it, right?
Yeah, also like at the bus stop as well, but
Yeah.
but they were honestly great to work with
Okay,
and
that's
totally understood removing that driveway. So we'll just be widening the driveway to the west there. So it'll be able to move 2 cars, but yeah, so bump outs on both corners, and narrowing it up to about 30. Sorry.
I'll be great.
Hamlin in Nebraska, this one, we're just gonna be matching the bump out that exists on the north side at the coffee shop. And then where the 2 circles are, we're gonna be updating the ramps. And then I heard through email, thanks for sending and kind of passing all those things through. That parking was a little bit tough at the coffee area and that there's some illegal parking. And I talked to our traffic folks and they said that they heard that and they moved some parking signs, but further to the west, not at this intersection location. So we're not planning on updating any signage for parking, but I did go out there and confirm that they updated the parking, no parking signs.
Right, and she's touching on that since Carroll opened about a year ago, that area has much different traffic patterns and parking patterns than the daycare that preceded it did. And we have heard from a couple of neighbors, and John's heard from a neighbor or 2 that some of the neighbors don't like so many cars, but I do think this bump out will actually address some of the concerns, because some of the concerns are, it's hard to have visibility with northbound cars on Hamlin because cars are illegally parking and blocking the view, but the bump out should help that as well, I think.
Yeah, I had heard from Carroll themselves that a customer had wanted them to put up more signs or something, so they had some complaints from neighbors. But I think you're right, that this could help address it.
Okay. Hamlin and Arlington, we're gonna be sort of mirroring what's happening at Nebraska. This is one of them that we're only putting them on one side. Also, I should do a disclaimer, don't take my drawings to scale. They're probably not gonna be that long. I just had to show a visual. So bump outs into Hamlin. and narrowing that up to 30.
Arlington is like a abnormally wide street. I've always noticed that. I'm like, well, why is the street so wide? So I
Yeah.
wonder if it would have seemed to have been a good place to put them on Arlington.
I think I also was thinking that, but then when I looked at the plans, I don't think this section of Arlington is as
Oh.
wide as I'm thinking. I
West of Hamlin, it's really super wide.
will double check the plans, and find out by the end of this, presentation. Okay, Frankson and Hamlin, which precipitated, coming to y'all, so thanks for having me. We're planning on bump outs just like at Arlington and Nebraska, but we're adding, ped ramps on the east side and adding a crossing. And since the existing sidewalk follows the right-of-way line, we're adding a segment of sidewalk to make it a straight walk, to get to that ped ramp instead of having a pedestrian walk south and then walk north to get to the new ramp. And so I don't know if the parcel owner is on.
Yes, the parcel owner is our attendee tonight.
Okay.
Doesn't have video capabilities, but
Okay, great. I know that they're concerned about the 2 trees, so with that extra segment of sidewalk, which is the long yellow line, it will take 2 trees that I understand the previous owner or this owner planted. And so it sounds like, and are they able to speak? Or
they aren't, they have chat ability, but in email, they expressed that they have interest in trying to save it, because they're relatively small trees, they're hoping to have enough time before the project starts in the spring to relocate the trees themselves. Shannon, please enter the chat if I'm misspeaking for you, but there are concerns about it creating a parallel redundant sidewalk on that property, and when I've thought about the situation of doing that, it raises some interesting questions for me, and I can totally understand if I was the homeowner there, not using the word interesting, and just like some logistical questions, even like, what's the responsibility for both sidewalks? Does the one become private property, or is it still city owned? And are you required to shovel both? Can you block it with some decorative thing, or can you build a fence over it? I don't know.
I don't know if anyone said anything in the chat, but
That is correct. I read the email carefully.
but I have communicated to Shannon that you're welcome to remove the trees and save them before June 1st. And if they aren't removed, then we'll remove them as part of the project. And that doesn't mean that they'll like save them. So definitely recommend moving them before June 1st. Everything is past that sidewalk that's curved is within the public right of way. So it would be up to the parcel owner to clear all the sidewalk, including the new one. I am digging in internally if we have any sidewalk anywhere that we have a maintenance agreement with the parcel owner saying you don't need to maintain the sidewalk in the winter, but I haven't found anything like that. So yeah, I'm still working on that, but.
Laura, did you have a question?
I did. I kind of am wondering, why are we adding so many crossovers on the east side from Frankson and then Midway Parkway? Why are we adding so many new crossover spots in that particular area? And one of the reasons I'm asking is that we do get a lot of bike traffic on that sidewalk, and there is kind of a gap in bikes trying to go up and down Hamlin. It's busy, so riding on that, it's like if that sidewalk on the east side the whole way down was wider, that would create some other opportunities. But I'm trying to picture why if this is a safe routes to school, there are no children on the east side at the Frankson crossovers. You know, it's Como Park Zoo is all on the one side. And would it be safer to just have one crossover where it currently is on the sidewalks versus adding like 4 crossovers in a short period of time when it goes perpendicular to a sidewalk, but there's not really sidewalk extensions that go beyond that?
Do you mean why we're adding 2 crossings of Hamlin?
Well, I'm it's like, I can see like maybe adding 1 crossing at Frankson, the one on the north, but I'm not quite sure why we have to add 1 on the south then, on both sides of it. And then just like 3 houses later on the Hamlin Midway, there's another one that's being added on the like frontage road, so to speak, of it. And on the Parkway, there's already a crossing piece there. So it's, you know, I'm counting at least 4 new ways to get across Hamlin between Frankson and the frontage road on the south side of Midway Parkway, whatever those roads are called, instead of just 2 that are currently there, especially when there's not homes on the east side of it.
Yeah. We have crossings at Frankson because the school is on the east side and it's a long crossing between Midway and then up to Arlington. And this is the next intersection. So if there's a pedestrian in between those areas, this would be the place where they would make that crossing. And we want to make it accessible in this location. And right now it's not.
Yeah, and my understanding is the program is called Safe Routes to School. So I'm imagining kids walking down Hamlin and they're going to cross at multiple places potentially to get into the roads that go to their home. So that's why we need several crosswalks and at several different intersections that seem to be closer together. Is that the rationale?
Yeah. And usually there is like a spacing for crossings, but there is a large gap between Frankson and Arlington, just like with the roadway network. And that's, we wouldn't build a mid-block crossing, if that makes sense.
I kind of get some of that. But I think it looks like a bit overkill between Frankson and Midway Parkway. And traditionally, hasn't it been that the kids cross Hamlin and then walk down the west side of it all the way down, so that, you know, once they cross one time right by the school and then work their way all the way down. So the concept of it's like they can weave back and forth all the way down. It seems almost like it's adding more chances for a child to bolt across the street or whatever.
Yeah, I at this intersection, we're trying to make it safer. We're assuming there's people already crossing at this location, and we want it to be accessible and safer.
Is there any worn down grass to signify that it's a common place people are crossing?
I have not seen that. It was snowing when I went by today, but that's why we're building the sidewalk, because we would anticipate that with these bump outs and a new ramp.
And then question in the chat, are 2 crossings at Frankson necessary? Will crosswalks be painted?
Crosswalks won't be painted at Frankson. We usually don't paint a crosswalk with a new crossing. We would have to assess like what are the speeds and that intersection. It depends on the intersection, but no, we're not planning on paint crossing here.
And it's something I just thought of, I've been thinking about this on the emails quite a bit, but just looking at this picture. And you might have already alluded to addressing this, but was there any consideration of just putting the crosswalk where the existing sidewalk naturally meets the vertical sidewalk and just, I know that would be sort of mid-block, but.
Yeah, no, that would be considered a mid-block crossing and it's not as safe. To put a crossing in a mid-block where between Frankson and Midway, that wouldn't be advised. Yeah.
Got it.
We would, if we had all the money in the world, we would probably build like a top of T bump out on the east side as well to make that crossing smaller, but yeah, we wouldn't have that crossing further south.
And did you answer why we have to have two at Frankson versus just one?
It's not that we have to, it's just that that's the best way to make the intersection accessible, instead of requiring someone north to have to cross down to go, like, let's say if the crossing is on the south, then, and you're trying to go north, then, okay, I have to go south and then up again. So having a crossing at both locations is the most accessible.
Well, that's the most accessible, but part of me thinks it's not the most logical. And if you have that much money for an extra long, awkward sidewalk that doesn't look like it makes sense at all, you know, could one more be put down Hamlin farther down before it gets to Como and just, you know, use that money farther down on like Almond or Canfield or Albany?
We are required to only do the intersections that we've called out in our application, so we actually can't use the money at other locations. But adding this crossing, it makes sense to add the sidewalk. So if we remove the sidewalk, then the sidewalk might not be required. But either way, if we're putting a bump out and we're adding a crossing, it wouldn't make sense to not have that sidewalk. As you're asking someone to go south and then go north to use the ramp.
Yeah, but there's, you know, it's sort of a mid-block thing anyway. I mean, just from someone who's lived and walked that intersection for many, many years, it seems like it's being overdone and it's not necessary, but I'll let you keep going in with your presentation, Laura. Thanks.
And I can definitely let our design team know. I can't make any promises.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just speak up and say, I think it actually looks okay to me. So just so you know, not everyone is feeling that Frankson should go away. I actually feel like it's okay. It makes sense to me based on the spacing. I look at the distance from Hoyt to Arlington, and you've got Hoyt and then Nebraska and Arlington. So there's three of them. And then it's a similar distance from Arlington to Midway. So having a mid one, it's just that Frankson, because you go away from the grid system, Frankson comes at an angle. It's not midway between the two, but I understand the rationale in terms of frequency of them, placing them there.
It may change the usage of that sidewalk on the east side, which doesn't actually get nearly as much use, of course, as along the west side. So maybe that would suddenly become more of a popular sidewalk.
Mhm.
But I don't understand why you wouldn't paint crosswalks.
That one I can definitely ask our engineering team, but my understanding is they usually wait for data of like, okay, let's look at this intersection of, do we have speed counts here? If we have ped counts, great, but
So you will be collecting data after you do the work to kind of see what the usage is?
yeah, I
Okay.
mean, not like that's what we do on every one of our projects, but yeah, like we would assess.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I don't know, maybe you don't have any excess money, but painting a crosswalk doesn't maybe it is expensive. It strikes me as one of the cheaper things to do.
It's cheaper, it's more about maintaining it, of like, if we put it there, then we would wanna keep it there.
Yeah.
And we're already, strapped for making sure that we can
Okay,
paint all of our, crossings, so I think they're trying to be pretty judicious about, okay, we have data on these locations, and if we add more, we can add more.
okay.
Okay, so this is just sort of the street view of what I was explaining on the last slide. And so it's the two trees that are inside of that yellow area. And then the fan is just where that ramp would go. And so if you didn't have this sidewalk, the yellow two lines, you would be having a pedestrian if they're coming towards the intersection, you're asking them to go south and then north to use the new ramp.
And my other thought on this piece is just that there's some other trees that are incredibly close to the line, and some of the other public works projects in the past few years, we've heard kind of tragic tales of unexpected collateral damage trees during construction. So whatever we can do to compel the contractor to be very careful around those other trees.
Yeah.
So we should do.
Question, where's the right of way there? Does it go along the curved part of the
It
site?
goes along the curve part,
Okay,
so
so-
I'm pretty sure that the road used to curve. And then we came at some point to try and to tee up this intersection, because that's just a safer design when you're at a 90-degree. So Frankson is more at a 90-degree to Hamlin than previously where it followed that curve.
I agree with Laura to some degree. I think you're gonna see cow paths on the east side. I think you're gonna see dirt trails going angling north and angling south. I bet very few people will go straight toward the woods and then make a left turn on the sidewalk there. It just seems like it doesn't follow what people would do when they're crossing the street, but we'll just see how it plays out, I guess.
Question, how tough would it be to save that tree? I mean, I don't know a lot about constructing cement areas, but I would think that if you just kind of built like a little shell around it and poured the cement around it, then you could save the tree. And the tree wouldn't have to go up, have to be yanked.
There's usually something that we do. These aren't our trees, so I don't know how it would actually work. But we usually have a call out in our plans that says like tree protection. And I know I told Shannon previously that it was 3 trees. I checked multiple times and our design team says it's only these 2 trees that you need to move. So, I will keep you updated, but they have told me only 2.
Got it.
Okay, last intersection, Hamlin and Midway. We're doing bump outs at almost every location, except for the service roads. We're keeping those bump outs as they are. I forgot to mention earlier in this presentation, we had considered medians, so where there's like the pedestrian refuge island in the center. First of all, there at a lot of intersections, there just wasn't the room. There was also the intersection where the coffee place is, there's already a bump out. And then when we spoke with Parks, they did not want to do pedestrian islands here because they said that they get a lot of pedestrians and they didn't want people filing and trying to squeeze in on an island and like falling out into the street. So they requested bump outs. And so we're going to be narrowing up Midway quite a bit to 28 feet from 40. And then the other intersection is 30. So I probably forgot to label that one in the south, but it's also going to be 30.
Is there gonna be enough room for bike lanes eventually? That is a heavily biked stretch, but it is just terrible pavement.
Yeah, there isn't going to be. There's not going to be enough room. That's why maybe the widening of that sidewalk on the east side would be where the bike traffic would go. And on this particular side,
We don't want people biking on the sidewalk, but that pavement is so terrible, but it gets a lot of bike traffic, so. Would there be enough room for bike lanes in the future?
Right now, there wouldn't be. And we did consider this at the beginning of the project of do we build these bump outs so bigger so that it could fit? Like, you know, if you've seen in Minneapolis, they build the
Those
ramp up and the
circle
ramp down.
tracks, yeah.
Yeah, we didn't have the funds for that, and we also don't know when we would stripe this. In our bike plan, it calls for a separated facility, so that usually comes with reconstruction, so, yeah.
Interesting.
The other, oh, go ahead.
I want to talk about the intersection of the northwest one that's kind of, there's a long hedgerow there in the bus stop. And that's a really complicated, there's a lot going on in that corner with people waiting for the bus and that row of trees right up next to the sidewalk and snow and everything else. And it looks like this is gonna allow maybe more room right there. That would be a nice improvement.
Yeah, so that one I believe is the location where the bump out will be a little bit longer to have the bus stop be flush. So like when the bus stops, it stops in lane and someone who's in a wheelchair is able to use that access.
On this picture, if you just go back, that south version of the Franklin crossing is right at the top of this picture. And so this is where there's currently just 2 crossings of the sidewalk, and now there's going to be 4 in that area. There's one that's currently there that doesn't really show up very well because it's existing, but there'll be a total of 4 places to cross the street at Midway Parkway there.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
we won't be striping one of them that's striped. We're gonna be consolidating one of the intersections. Yeah. And I don't know for sure if we're gonna be striping the north one or the south one, but yes, you're correct. And you're explaining that the Frankson one is just on the north side of this photo.
Correct. And maybe it's just the idea that if you want to go east, that seems to be where you'd want to stripe something. Versus it doesn't connect to anything except dirt paths where people cut across it on that northeast corner. There could be an angle sidewalk so that it connects to the main sidewalk because there's already a dirt path that people have worn through there. I do like all the bump outs. I don't have a problem with that. It's just seeing that extra cross up at Frankson. I can understand one crossing over there because of the distance, but having 2 right there seems a little bit odd to me. And I'll be quiet about it now because I know there's different opinions and I appreciate everyone speaking up, but it just seems like we've added an awful lot of crossing in a certain area. So I don't know. And I don't know from a standpoint of good traffic hygiene, if it's better to have people crossing at one location or multiple locations for safety. I don't know what studies are on that.
Yeah, it depends on the road. But this one, since the spacing and the visibility and what we think people will be doing, that's why we've chosen the locations for ped ramps that we have. And the project is about being able to cross Hamlin safely, so we're trying to make every opportunity for that. And then gotta plug the project webpage. So it's stpaul.gov/Chelsea Heights Safe Routes to School, SRTS, and you can sign up for emails. We don't send a ton of emails, but if you want to stay connected to the project, that would be the way to do it. And then there's usually if you're on the corridor or in the area and you want to know about construction, they'll give weekly emails. And then 32 feet is the Arlington street. I can't remember who asked. And 32 feet is our standard residential road. So it's not super wide. I mean, we'd usually go for 30, but if you're gonna build a 2-foot bump out or like a 1-foot bump out, it's not super worth it, just like money wise.
Can I ask one other question on the bump out? Why would the Midway Parkway only go to 29 feet where the other ones are at 30? Doesn't it make more sense to have everything 30 for those on Midway Parkway?
Yeah, I'm guessing that's probably just because we have a one-sided bump out and we usually have a standard amount. So 33, 32, 31, 30, 29.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so I mean, they're all different. That seems kind of odd. Like, shouldn't they all just be 30 like it is at or close at Hamlin and Hoyt? They're 30, 30, and 34. I don't know if it should go
yeah,
lower than that.
I will ask. I would think this, I'm not an engineer, but I would think it's because they want to try and make like if someone was going straight across Hamlin from Midway, they'd want to make sure that a car doesn't have to veer or like split the difference. They're probably just trying to line up those center lines is what I'm trying to say. But I can ask.
Okay,
It's a nice
appreciate
update.
that.
Cool.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask about that 29 feet. Do we need 2 crossings at Frankson? Was there anything else? Yeah, and crosswalks at Frankson. Okay.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
And I hope I ask this well, because I haven't seen it myself. It's just been brought up at the school. When you come out onto Hamlin, by the rec center and the playground area, there's like a spot that
Yes.
has no curb and.
Yes, I forgot to mention that. We are gonna be removing that ramp because that is a mid-block
Yeah.
crossing. We spoke to Parks and the school to see, is there some reason we need to keep this? Does facilities use it? Is there anything? And they said there wasn't,
Okay.
so we're gonna remove it.
Awesome.
Does that mean there will be a curb there then?
There will be a curb, yeah. Not a ramp. Thanks for asking that, actually, I forgot to say that.
The timing is on that bike plan for that stretch.
Yes, there is no time limit. Yeah, I know, I really tried when I first got this project to be like, wait, like, there's gotta be a plan for the bikes, right? And no, there's nothing in the.
So this,
second plan.
this stretch of Hamlin will eventually be completely reconstructed, it sounds
I
like.
mean, that's every street will
You don't
eventually
know.
be, yes, yeah, but I don't know, so.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why I think we decided not to do bump outs with the built-in bike facility because we just don't know when that separated facility will come.
Yeah.
So. Okay, I'm sorry, I went way longer than.
That
Things
was
take as much.
me. It was all me.
No,
It was all Laura.
it's the Laura. My contact information is on these slides and I'll leave them here as well.